moved you a little bit farther out. We're going to do Acts 16. I'm assuming that the Psalms is going to be a little bit less requiring word translation, so hopefully we'll get back outside in the next couple of readings here. I just really wanted to make sure that Job had justice done to it. And so this is going to be part 2 of the day 191 reading, Acts 16 standalone. I'm going to splice together Job 41 and 42. But I wanted to have all the information for Job. And I'm satisfied with it. Hope that you're satisfied with it, yeah. And most importantly, that the people be satisfied with it. It's really why I'm doing this. I've been very blessed to have faith. I remember saying when the vaccine, or when COVID came out, I was like, if God's gonna kill me, God's gonna kill me. You know, I'm like, I'm not scared of a virus. I'm not scared of dying. And then I never got the arm ticket. So I don't even know if I can say the V word on here. But I had complete faith in Elohim, who I didn't know it to be Elohim at that point. I just knew him as God. And I maintained my faith in Elohim, that all that which has befallen me has been for my betterment and my greater ability to tend to those around me. Because one of the things that I struggled with was women. You know, they loved me. I owned a business. I'm pretty cute. But realistically, the love wasn't there. The respect and the responsibility wasn't there. I remember this one girl, I told her I'd make her a mozzarella stick Melba pizza, and I did not make it on the day that I was supposed to make it. And she came in and she just looked at me, and she had this like disappointment on her face. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, nothing. I'm like, tell me, what's going on? What do you want? What do you need? What can I do for you? She's like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm like, okay, what do you want? I'll make you whatever. I didn't remember that I was supposed to make her this pizza until I got home that night. And I apologized for it. You know, I did the right thing. It genuinely was a mistake. But it genuinely was a mistake because of the lack of concern that I had for her in my life. Now, you've got what's called toxic masculinity in today's day and age. And then you've got what are called simps in today's day and age. The simp being the one who pretty well lets the woman run his life and will do anything to have sex again. And the toxic masculinity is the one who seemingly cares about nothing but himself, and you know, just is in the gym all day and is very vain and thinks that women should be feminine and not masculine. Because what happens is that if men are competing with women, those women are not only less desirable, but it's time away from purpose, which can be helping more people. And so there's a need for hierarchy and order. I had a kid come up to me in Island Pond at the 12 Tribes this weekend, and he says, 5-year-old, adorable little 5-year-old, Hushai's kid, says to me, he got this big suitcase twice the size of him. And he said, will you help me? And I said, yeah, bud, I'll help you. You know, and so I'm like, it's a suitcase. I can pick up the suitcase, I move the suitcase. And so he's grabbing this suitcase and he's trying to pull it down the stairs. And so I'm like lifting it, like just enough so that he can move it, so that there's no actual weight on it and he's just walking with it. You know what I mean? Like I'm carrying the suitcase and he's pulling it. And to me it was adorable. And Hushai had said earlier, he's like, we think that kids are cute and so we want to play with them, but then we forget to grow and structure them in discipline. So his mom comes and she goes, are you helping Dylan with the suitcase? And he goes, Dylan's helping me. And she goes, no, you're helping Dylan. Don't upset the order. Wow. Like, I wouldn't have picked up this suitcase and moved this suitcase. So this suitcase would still be up there if your son hadn't taken the initiative to say, will you help me with the suitcase? So I'm looking at this like how this 5-year-old took the initiative to ask somebody for help. And that was a beautiful thing. He knew he couldn't do it. He wanted it done for his father. He wanted to do a good thing for his parents. And he couldn't accomplish it, so he sought help. You know, and that to me is our relationship with the Father. But I guess the question should have been, can you move this suitcase for me? I will help you. Knowing that I would be the one, knowing that I had the resources to do it. And so with belief the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it will move. With belief the size of a mustard seed. Acts 16. Oh, let's pray. Glorious Father in the heavens, fill these people up and give them what they need. Let me speak your words so that they can hear. In Yeshua's name, amen. Acts 16. And he came to Derbe and Lystra, and see a certain taught one was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain Yehudi woman who believed, but his father was Greek, who was well spoken of by the brothers who were at Lystra and Iconium. Sha'ul wished to have this one go with him, and he took him and circumcised him because of the Yehudim who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was Greek. And as they went through the cities, they delivered to them the regulations to keep, which were decided by the emissaries and elders at Jerusalem. Then indeed the assemblies were strengthened in the belief, and increased in number every day. And having passed through Phrygia and the Galatian country, they were forbidden by the set-apart Spirit to speak the word in Asia. When they came to Musha, they tried to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit did not allow them. And having passed by Musha, they came down to Troas, and in the night a vision appeared to Sha'ul. A man of Macedonia was standing, begging him and saying, come over to Macedonia and help us. And when he saw the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the master had called us to bring the good news to them. Therefore, sailing to Troas, we ran a straight course to Samothrake, and the next day came to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is the principal city of that part of Macedonia, a colony. And we were staying in that city for some days. And on the Sabbath day, we went outside the city by a river, where there used to be prayer. And having sat down, we were speaking to the women who were there, and a certain woman named Lydia, seller of purple from the city of Thyatira, worshiping Elohim, was hearing, whose heart the master did open to pay attention to what Sha'ul said. And when she was immersed in her household, she begged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be believing in the master, come to my house and stay. And she urged us. And it came to be, as we went to prayer, that a certain slave girl, possessed with the spirit of Puthan, did meet us, who brought her masters much profit by foretelling. Having followed Sha'ul and us, she cried out, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, who proclaim to us the way of deliverance. And she was doing this for many days, but Sha'ul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, I command you in the name of Yeshua Messiah to come out of her. And it came out that same hour. But when her masters saw that their anticipation of money-making was gone, they seized Sha'ul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the rulers. And having brought them to the captains, they said, These men, being Yehudim, greatly disturb our city, and they proclaim practices which are not right for us to receive nor to do, being Romans. And the crowd rose up together against them, and the captains tore off their garments and commanded them to be beaten with rods. And having laid many blows upon them, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them safely, who, having received such a command, put them in the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks. And at midnight Sha'ul and Silas were praying and singing songs to Elohim, and the prisoners were listening to them. And suddenly a great earthquake took place, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and all the chains came loose. And the jailer, awakening from sleep and seeing the prison doors open, thinking the prisoners had fled, drew his sword and was about to kill himself. But Sha'ul called with a loud voice, saying, Do no harm to yourself, for we are all here. And asking for a light, he ran in and fell down trembling before Sha'ul and Silas. And having led them outside, he said, Masters, what do I have to do to be saved? And they said, Believe on the Master Yeshua Messiah, and you shall be saved, you and your household. And they spoke the word of Yahweh to him, and to all who were in his house. And taking them in that hour of the night, he washed their wounds, and immediately he was immersed, he and all that were his. And having brought them into his house, he set food for them. And he rejoiced with all the household, having believed in Elohim. And when day came, the authorities sent the officers, saying, Let these men go. And the jailer reported these words to Sha'ul, saying, The captains have sent to let you go. Now then, come out and go in peace. But Sha'ul said to them, They have beaten us publicly, uncondemned, being Romans. They have thrown us into prison, and now do they throw us out secretly? No, indeed. Let them come themselves and bring us out. And the officers reported these words to the authorities, and they were afraid when they heard that they were Romans. And having come, they pleaded with them and brought them out and asked them to leave the city. So coming out of the prison, they went to Lydia, and seeing the brothers, they encouraged them and went forth. What a chapter. What a chapter. It's been a few days since we've done Acts 15. But basically, Acts 15 is about the need for circumcision. And versus the judgment becomes with the elders and with Sha'ul, ultimately through the Spirit, through Sha'ul, by the Spirit, through Sha'ul. Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Elohim, but that we write to them to abstain from the defilement of idols, and from whoring, and from what is strangled, and from blood. 15, 19, and 20. Oh, let's do 21. From ancient generations, Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregation every Sabbath. And that's going to be important, because one might say, well, if we only have to do those things, then what's the significance of Moshe being read on the Sabbath? Well, because he was read on the Sabbath and it didn't work. Well, wrong. Let's take it from the top. And he came to Derbe and Lystra, and see, a certain taught one was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain Yehudi woman who believed, but his father was Greek, who was well spoken of by the brothers who were at Lystra and Iconium. Sha'ul wished to have this one go with him, and he took him and circumcised him because of the Yehudim who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was Greek. So even though his father's Greek, he's a Yehudi woman, and his mother is a Yehudi woman, and if he's not circumcised as a matriarchal Yehudi, then he's going to be persecuted by the Jews. So Sha'ul gets him circumcised. But they all knew that his father was Greek. So Timotheus gets circumcised so that he can be accepted by the Yehudi. And as they went through the cities, they delivered to them the regulations to keep, which were decided by the emissaries and the elders at Jerusalem. Then indeed the assemblies were strengthened in belief and had increased in number every day. And having passed through Phrygia and the Galatian country, they were forbidden by the set-apart Spirit to speak the word in Asia. And this is interesting because if you look at, Russia will tell you that they're a super Christian country, but there's a lot of communism in China. There's more places in China where they don't even allow Bibles, or Asia. There's a lot of communism in Asia, and there's places in Asia where they don't even allow Bibles. China's got to have a Chinese Bible, an approved Chinese Bible, and why would governments regulate religion if it's not true? If they don't fear it, come on. They know the truth. They know the truth. I'm going to actually look up if the Quran is outlawed. You get 30 different answers. I don't even trust Google anymore. You literally can't Google anything. It's how do you even know? Forget that I brought that up. Asia! Set apart Spirit forbid Sha'ul and Timotheus from speaking in Asia. When they came to Mysia, they tried to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit did not allow them. I have no idea where Mysia or Bithynia is. I really don't know even where Macedonia is. I know Galatia because of the book, but I don't know where it is. And so if somebody's got a map link, hit me in the comments. I'd love to see it. So, the assemblies are growing and increasing day by day. And having passed by Mysia, they came down to Troas. And in the night a vision appeared to Sha'ul. A man of Macedonia was standing, begging him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." And when he saw the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia. concluding that the master had called us to bring the good news to them. Us. It's obviously not Sha'ul. And so somebody's got to be writing this, and he's hanging out this whole time, witnessing all of this. He's there for Peter. I think there's one point where he says, I was not there. Maybe not. But it's presumed that Luke is writing this, and so he's the us. And when he saw the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the master had called us to bring the good news to them. Standing, begging him. Therefore, sailing from Troas, we ran a straight course to Samothrace, and the next day came to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is the principal city of that part of Macedonia, a colony. And we were staying in that city for some days. And on the Sabbath day, we went outside the city by a river, where there used to be prayer, and having sat down, we were speaking to the women who were there, who met there. So they're still going on the Sabbath. There's, I don't know if these are Yehudi, but they're keeping the Sabbath. Sha'ul's keeping the Sabbath here. So is Timotheos. So they are seeking people on the Sabbath. We see Yeshua also having been in the temple on the Sabbath teaching, as was his custom. Luke 4:16. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and according to his practice, he went into the congregation on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. And on the Sabbath day we went outside the city by a river, where there used to be prayer. And having sat down, we were speaking to the women who met there. And a certain woman named Lydia, they're also familiar with this town and or just talking to people. Hey, where do we pray? And a certain woman named Lydia, seller of purple from the city of Thyatira, worshiping Elohim. She's there worshiping Elohim, and she's selling purple from Thyatira. I don't know where Thyatira is, and if Lydia... This has a note that says, most probably a Gentile by birth converted to Yeshua, which concerns me because that's a bold statement to say. So let's see if other... I've still got my 5 translations out from Job, so let's see if any other ones have a thing to say about this. Because I don't want to just make that assumption, but I do want to recognize that they're still keeping the Sabbath. What verse is this? 14. Oh, okay. This does have a note about 16:10 to 17. This is the first of the so-called we sections in Acts, where Luke writes as one of Paul's companions. The other passages are 25 to 15, 21, 1 to 18, 27, 1 to 28, and 16. Scholars debate whether Luke may not have used the first person plural simply as a literary device to lend color to the narrative. It is more probable, however, that we includes Luke or another companion of Paul whose data Luke used as a source. Okay, so I'm not finding this, and that's why these can get a little bit dangerous sometimes. These footnotes here, because for them to say probably, I don't like that. However, let's read on and see if there's evidence for this. And I do like that she's just selling purple. Like she's just selling all things purple. Purple potatoes, purple gowns, purple hats, amethyst, purple quartz. You see that in Ezekiel too, where they're just selling blue and scarlet and purple. Okay. And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple from the city of Thyatira, worshiping Elohim, was hearing, whose heart the master did open to pay attention to what Sha'ul said. I mean, the Yehudis' hearts had to be opened as well, so that doesn't necessarily make her Gentile or Jew. And when she was immersed, and her household, she begged us, saying, if you have judged me to be believing in the Master, come to my house and stay. And she urged us. And it came to be, as we went to prayer, that a certain slave girl, possessed with a spirit of Puthan, did meet us, who brought her masters much profit by foretelling. I don't know who Puthan is, but not that he really matters. I'm just kind of curious. Or what's the name? Spirit of divination is what this translation says. Practicing the art of prediction. The demon of divination. Okay. So, having followed Sha'ul and us, she cried out, saying, "These men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, who proclaim to us the way of deliverance." And this is interesting, because she's a slave girl possessed with the spirit of divination. So, looking into humanity here, I wonder if they had been, like, I don't know why I see this slave girl, like, with a like buckle and chain around her neck, and they've just got her, like, they've put this spirit of divination into her, and they're working, like, spells and sorcery on her, letting her be their medium, like, so that instead of them taking on the spirits and having to deal with all the outbursts or other reactions of those spirits, they're casting the spirits into her and basically forcing her to act in the way of the spirit. These men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, who proclaim to us the way of deliverance, which is a heck of a bold statement for somebody who is, one, a slave, and two, possessed by divination. And so one would think that this would be like, immediately you'd cast this demon out, or you would try and save this girl. You know, this would be a call for salvation from her. But they don't do that. And she was doing this for many days. But Sha'ul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Yeshua Messiah to come out of her." And it came out that same hour. So Sha'ul doesn't save this girl. He just gets pissed off and he's like, "Shut up and leave in the name of Yeshua Messiah." Which, you know, we've talked about the love of the neighbor. We just went through Job, who gets the captivity turned from him by praying for his friends. And now Sha'ul only casts this demon out because he's getting pissed off that he's got to listen to her. But when her masters saw that their anticipation of money making was gone, they seized Sha'ul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the rulers. When her masters, so there are multiple masters here, saw that their anticipation of money making was gone, they seized Sha'ul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the rulers. And, you know, so this might be why they needed some time, they needed some days, and then, you know, Elohim has his timing for everything, and everything works with him, especially if you're staying in the spirit. But it does say here, Sha'ul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Yeshua Messiah to come out of her." And that's all we need to say. If we've got, like, a problem with that spirit, I command you in the name of Yeshua Messiah to come out of her, or him. She was doing this for many days, but Sha'ul, greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Yeshua Messiah to come out of her." And it came out of her that same hour. And so going back to the masculine women, this is upsetting the order of rank here. These are the servants of the Most High Elohim. So there's Elohim, and then there's these men, and then there's the people, and then there's the demons. And she has this demon, and she recognizes Elohim as the Most High. So this is a people with a demon, right? So she's on level 3 down here. Elohim's 1,
servants of the Most High are 2, people are 3, demons are 4. Now the demon has moved up to 3 because it's got a human host to be in possession of. This demon, the demon in this girl is trying to usurp the servants and make it higher than the servants by taking the authority over it. Because this is a cry out. These men are the servants of the Most High Elohim. This is an accusatory conversation. She's trying to expose them. This isn't like let these men save you. They're of the Most High. They are the true emissaries of Yeshua Messiah. This is like this is exactly where I thought it was. I just couldn't see it. Matthew 8:28, and when he came to the other side, to the country of the Girgashites, 2 demon-possessed ones met him, coming out of the tombs, very fierce, so that no one was able to pass that way. And see, they cried out, "What have we to do with you, Yeshua, son of Elohim? Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" And at a distance from them there was a herd of many pigs feeding, and the demons begged him, saying, "If you cast us out, send us into the herd of pigs." And he said to them, "Go." And they, coming out, went into the herd of pigs, and see, the entire herd of pigs rushed down the steep place into the sea and died in the water. And the herdsmen fled and went away into the city and reported all this and about those possessed by demons. See, all the city came out to meet Yeshua, and when they saw him, they begged him to leave their borders. Terrified. Point being here that this is a demon calling out, "Why are you here? Please leave us alone." That's what they're trying to do, is basically just intimidate Sha'ul and Timotheos. Alright. But when her masters saw that their anticipation of money-making was gone, they seized Sha'ul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to the rulers. And having brought them to the captains, they said, "These men, being Yahudim, greatly disturb our city." And it kind of works, because they're now being seized and accused of disruption when this woman's following them around for days, just yelling at them that they're servants of the Most High in a derogatory way. And they proclaim, and if anybody does that to you, then let them know, I am a servant of the Most High. And then cast out their demon. And they proclaim practices which are not right for us to receive nor to do, being Romans. So they're like, they serve gods that we don't serve. And the crowd rose up together against them, and the captains tore off their garments and commanded them to be beaten with rods. So they exposed them. This is the second time Sha'ul's getting beat, which I'm sure that Elohim is loving because of how many Jews he stoned. Acts 14:19, but Yehudim arrived from Antioch and Iconium, and having won over the crowds, they stoned Sha'ul, dragged him out of the city, thinking he was dead. Is this Iconium again? Oh, it's Macedonia. Okay. And the crowds rose up together. And you know what else I'm thinking just now is that, like, Sha'ul has him circumcised. Well, I guess things were different back then. They probably had, like, crowd showers. Because I'm like, they're going to, like, inspect him. Because he has him circumcised so that they'll know that he's a Jew. Okay, 22. And the crowd rose up together against them, and the captains tore off their garments and commanded them to be beaten with rods. Yeah. The exposition, the vulnerability, they strip them and then beat them. Having laid many blows upon them, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them safely. Who, having received such a command, put them into the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks. That's his solution, to keep them safely. We've seen Peter twice come out of prison. I think it's 13 and 5 and 5 and 12. Peter just gets taken out of prison by messengers. And at midnight, Sha'ul and Silas were praying and singing songs to Elohim, and the prisoners were listening to them. They're just out there. They're just like, let's pray. Let's sing songs to Elohim. It's another thing. If you don't have worship songs in your head, these are great things to know. And especially with if persecution's coming. And suddenly a great earthquake took place, so that the foundations of the prison were shaking, and immediately all the doors were opened and all the chains came loose. Just, another open all the doors to the prison. And the jailer, awaking from sleep and seeing the prison doors open, thinking the prisoners had fled, drew his sword and was about to kill himself. That's his answer. He's like, oh, I'm screwed. Not because, the earthquake opened all the doors, and there's one guy here, and he's supposed to be guarding all these doors, which generally isn't a problem because nobody's breaking out of the doors, but in reality, he's like, I'm going to kill myself. And here's why this is so beautiful. Here's why this works. Again, just like, it never says that they fought back. They beat them with rods, and having laid many blows upon them, they threw them into prison. These guys don't fight back. They show love to these people. Stephanos, do not Master, do not hold this sin against them. And having said this, he fell asleep. Acts 7:60. I want to say... trying to find where he says seen here on Mark 15:16, and the soldiers led him away into the court which is in the palace, and they called together the entire company of soldiers and decked him with purple, and they plaited a crown of thorns, put it on him. It is Luke. Man, I'm just not seeing the scriptures today. Luke 23:34. Yeshua is about to take the stake. And Yeshua said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. And they divided his garments and cast lots. Yeah, so it's the compassion here that is the real beauteous element of this. Sha'ul could have let the jailer kill himself and walk right out. Same difference. What's the difference? The difference here is that, but Sha'ul called with a loud voice, saying, do no harm to yourself, for we are all here. Sha'ul gives him reassurance that good is still upon him. And he also instills that with do no harm to yourself. He says, he shows compassion for him. He shows care and love to him and concern for his being. At which point, he affirms the man by saying, we are all here. And asking for a light, he ran in and fell down trembling before Sha'ul and Silas. And I don't know, who is this asking for a light? This is verse 29. And the jailer called for the lights and rushed in, and trembling with fear he fell down before Paul and Silas. That's what I thought. So he's like, give me a light! And he runs in. So like, just paint this. Watch this. Direct this. Guide this. Produce this. Jailer awaking from his sleep, seeing the prison doors open. So there's an earthquake, and the jailer wakes up. He's like, oh my God, all the prison doors are open. The prisoners have fled. Surely they're going to kill me.
Do no harm to yourself, for we are all here. Where are the lights? Sha'ul and Silas, you are the men of Elohim. Save me. And having led them outside, he said, Masters, what do I have to do to be saved? Gets up. He says, what do I have to do? Leads them outside. What do I have to do to be saved? And they said, believe on the Master Yeshua Messiah, and you shall be saved, you and your households. And so apparently this is Rome right now. And they spoke the word of Yahweh to him, and to all who were in his house, the capital W word, the word of Yahweh, all the things that Yeshua taught them. So, man, just imagine being a part of this. Like, being this guy who's like the jailer, and then like seeing all these works and wonders happen, and hearing of them. Like, yo, my jail, like this guy goes to work, like he goes to church the next day, and he's like, my jail got opened and I got saved. And there's like, yeah, I heard about that in Greek. Yeah, that happened twice in Greek for Peter. And taking them in that hour of the night, he washed their wounds, and immediately he was immersed, he and all that were his. So he takes care of them. They've shown compassion to him. And having brought them into his house, he set food before them. And he rejoiced with all his household, having believed in Elohim. And when day came, the authorities sent the officers, saying, let these men go. And the jailer reported these words to Sha'ul, saying, the captains have sent to let you go. Now then, come out and go in peace. And here's authority. You want to talk about authority? But Sha'ul said to them, he's such a little... Sha'ul is a man. They have beaten us publicly, uncondemned, being Romans. They have thrown us into prison, and now do they throw us out secretly? No, indeed. Let them come themselves and bring us out. So they're in Rome, they're Romans, they're citizens, and basically they're saying, like, you know, you guys did this to your own people. We're not foreigners, we're not terrorists, we're Romans who are practicing our belief. And Sha'ul, he gets greatly annoyed. And you think about it too, like, Sha'ul is the one who, like, Stephanos dies at his feet. Like, he's going around, and Sha'ul was giving approval to his death, and on that day there was a great persecution against the assembly which was at Yerushalayim, and they were all scattered throughout the countries of Yehuda and Shomeron except the emissaries. And dedicated men buried Stephanos and made great lamentation over him, but Sha'ul was ravaging the assemblies, entering every house and dragging off men and women, putting them in prison. Then those who had been scattered went everywhere bringing the good news, the word. So Sha'ul is an executioner. Sha'ul is he's no stranger to death. He's not afraid of death. He knows his rights. He's very well learned in the Torah, I believe that it says. He's a Pharisee. We might get more into that later. Probably we will once he's in court. He'll give a background on himself. But point being here that he's not afraid. And he's like, these Romans drew us in here. Now they want us to leave quietly. Fuck you. Bring us out. And the officers reported these words to the authorities. And they were afraid when they heard that they were Romans. And having come, they pleaded with them and brought them out and asked them to leave the city. They pleaded with them. The authorities pleaded with Sha'ul and Timotheos. Is Silas here? I don't know why. Yeah, Silas is here too. And asked them to leave the city. So like they just get their clothes back, you know, like don the suit, you know what I mean? They walk out of prison and they just strolling out of Rome. So coming out of the prison, they went to Lydia, and seeing the brothers, they encouraged them and went forth. Praise Yahweh.